do the dope, I start limping and walking fucked up. It's hard to walk. They're putting horse tranquilizer, elephant carfentanil, all kinds of psych meds. It's making people angry, agitated, fighting, robbing each other.
Las Vegas, Nevada, one of the most vibrant and wealthy cities on earth, drawing more than 40 million visitors each year. It's a place synonymous with high-stakes gambling, luxury hotels, and an endless stream of affluent tourists chasing fortune under the neon glow. But beyond the bright lights and lavish casinos lies a different story. Here, many residents live in poverty or without shelter, struggling to survive on streets that can be as harsh and unforgiving as the desert itself. The city is famed for its world-class shows and the promise of life-changing wins at every poker table. Yet, just steps from the Strip, another reality unfolds. Tent encampments beneath overpasses, makeshift shacks under bridges, and people sleeping on benches in public parks. It feels almost like a cruel illusion, wealth and poverty existing side by side in the same zip code. For visitors chasing excitement, this crisis is often invisible. But turn down a side street or glance beneath a highway, and you'll find a community fighting every day just to endure. And that contrast raises an unsettling question we'll return to later. Can a city flush with cash truly ignore so many lives in need? From the illusions of opulence, we now turn to the hard statistics that define Las Vegas's homelessness crisis. As of January 2024, Clark County's point-in-time count recorded 6,650 people without shelter on any given night, a 7% increase from the previous year. That means roughly 400 more individuals now sleep in tents, cars, or doorways compared to 2023. Among them, veterans account for nearly 15%, about 1,000 men and women, while families with children represent 12%, a troubling figure underscored by the more than 600 homeless students reported in local schools last spring. The city's housing crisis is a major driver. Since 2019, median rents in Las Vegas have jumped 32%, climbing from $1,000 to $1,320 a month, while wages have barely kept pace. Hospitality and service industry employees, the backbone of the Strip's glittering economy, earn a median of just $14.50 an hour, leaving little buffer when a job loss, illness, or unexpected expense strikes. Meanwhile, no-fault evictions have become alarmingly common. In 2024, 1 in 4 renters reported receiving a 24-hour notice despite being up to date on rent, only to watch their belongings dumped on the curb. This isn't a distant problem. It's your neighbor, your barista, maybe even your classmate, beneath Interstate 15 and US. Route 95, dozens of unsanctioned encampments have sprung up, each sheltering anywhere from 10 to 50 people. Outreach teams from groups like Nevada Hand and Help of Southern Nevada scramble to connect residents with shelter beds. Yet of the 4,200 available citywide, more than 1,500 sit empty. The reasons are telling. Clients often lack reliable transportation or fear losing their spot if they leave to work a shift. The phrase "out of sight, out of mind" takes on grim irony when sweeps dismantle entire camps, pushing residents elsewhere without offering real solutions. In one March operation, crews cleared 3 high-visibility sites and displaced 175 people, handing them flyers for a shelter 10 miles away, too far for most to reach on foot or by bus. And so the question lingers, How can a city that earns over $12 billion a year from gaming and tourism look past so many lives hanging by a thread? When the neon glow fades, these aren't just statistics. They are stories of hardship, resilience, and urgent need. From these stark realities, our journey now turns underground into the hidden tunnels and improvised shelters where Las Vegas's unhoused carve out fragile moments of refuge. Beneath Las Vegas in 2024 lies a shadow city, more than 270,000 square feet of flood tunnels weaving under the Strip. Here, far from patrolling officers and curious tourists, entire communities carve out shelter from the desert's brutal summers and chilling winters. But the promise of refuge comes with deadly risks. Flash floods can tear through the tunnels without warning. In one tragic event, 9 people were killed when water surged in after storm runoff was released without alarms. Those who survived described the tunnels as both sanctuary and prison. Makeshift homes of plywood and tarps cling to concrete walls. Some residents wire solar lights and battery chargers. Others tend tiny gardens in discarded containers. Yet danger is constant. Floods strike unpredictably, and violent clashes can erupt over stolen bicycles or lost belongings. When the lights go out and the water rises, survival hangs by a thread. Still, for many, the choice is stark. Endure the searing heat of the streets above, or risk the hidden perils below. And beneath this grim duality lies one undeniable truth. No matter how desperate the conditions, life finds a way. From this subterranean struggle, we rise back to street level to see how city authorities respond, or fail to respond, to the crisis unfolding in plain sight. In this chapter, we hear from officers caught between public safety and human dignity. Sergeant Anthony Guerrero and his team patrol North Las Vegas hotspots, where complaints of theft and trespassing often drive enforcement. Their method: issue 48-hour removal, notices before dismantling camps. Critics argue this approach simply shuffles people from one corner to another without offering real alternatives. Officer Perkins of the Las Vegas Metro Police takes a different path. In Sunset Park, she makes what she calls consensual contacts, approaching campers to check on their well-being. She doesn't carry a citation pad, but she does carry resource cards for shelters and mental health services. We can't arrest mental illness, she explains, but we can connect people to help if they're willing to accept it. Still, many unhoused residents see law enforcement as adversaries, not allies. Residents want clean sidewalks and safe parks. City leaders prioritize tourist perceptions, and shelters remain at capacity. That tension leaves officers frustrated, stepping into roles more like social workers, yet without the tools or funding to create lasting change. By the end of this section, one theme is clear. Policing homelessness without addressing root causes only fuels a revolving door of displacement. Next, we turn to one source of hope in this bleak landscape: the charities and volunteer networks fighting to break the cycle. Beneath overpasses and along flood channels, entire neighborhoods rise from concrete and debris. With permanent shelters in short supply, many unhoused residents build homes from discarded plywood, tarps, and shopping carts. Some create multi-room encampments outfitted with solar lanterns, battery chargers, even makeshift kitchens. Others form small communities, pooling what little they have to endure blistering summers and freezing desert nights. In certain districts, Abandoned motels and rundown apartment blocks sit empty, left to decay. Desperate people quietly slip inside, boarding up windows and living unseen. Under Nevada's adverse possession laws, continuous occupation and maintenance for 5 years, along with payment of property taxes, can lead to a legal claim. For some, this squatter strategy becomes the last resort. Underground networks share tips on which buildings are most vulnerable and how to mask utility use from landlords or power companies. Law enforcement often uncovers these hidden settlements during welfare checks or after neighborhood complaints. The cycle is predictable. Boards torn down, residents evicted, entrances sealed, only for people to start over somewhere else. Could reclaiming abandoned properties be transformed into a lifeline instead of a liability? This tug of war over space reveals a deeper issue, when the concept of ownership leaves out the desperate survival force's creative and often risky solutions. From these improvised shelters, our focus now shifts to the charities and community groups mobilizing compassion across the valley. Amid the labyrinth of tents and burned-out shells, a quiet army of nonprofits pushes back with compassion. One is U.S. Vets, founded by Giovanni, a former soldier turned advocate. His focus is on veterans, men and women, whose wartime sacrifices gave way to neglect at home. On any given evening, his team distributes hot meals and hygiene kits outside makeshift camps. Giovanni still remembers the first night he slept on the street. No blanket, no pillow, only the hum of passing cars for company. Today, his organization offers counseling, job training, and transitional housing vouchers, drawing on his own redemption story to inspire those still searching for theirs. Not far away, the Las Vegas Rescue Mission stands tall on a busy boulevard. Its doors open around the clock. Heather, originally from England, manages the sprawling campus where families, seniors, and people with disabilities find refuge. She stretches private donations alongside county funds earmarked for family programs. We live a travel documentary of human endurance every day, she says, but you won't find it on the front page. Through partnerships with local businesses, the mission runs a thrift store, a culinary training program, and even a medical clinic, each effort keeping more people off the street and giving them a path forward. Yet these efforts only scratch the surface of an overwhelming need. With tens of thousands still without beds each night, volunteers brace for shelter crush, that breaking point when donations dry up just as winter temperatures plummet. Compassion and goodwill do matter, but can they really move the needle against such a vast crisis? Charities stretch every dollar, but systemic barriers, zoning restrictions, funding shortfalls, and public stigma limit how far their reach can go. And yet, in those fleeting moments, when a hot meal sparks a smile or a job interview leads to a paycheck, hope flickers brighter than any neon sign on the strip. But beneath the surface lies another battle, one far less visible but equally devastating: the struggle for mental health. Having seen how communities rally and charities fight uphill, we now step inside the mind's battles behind the tents. The gaps, however, are cavernous. Nevada ranks near the bottom in per capita mental health spending, and wait lists for state-funded treatment can stretch 6 months or more. For those without insurance or ID, the barriers are almost insurmountable. Advocates argue that untreated mental illness isn't just a personal tragedy, it ripples across the community in rising ER costs, strained policing, and encampments that grow in both size and desperation. Joel's story is not unique. It's a reflection of a system that patches crises instead of preventing them. Without consistent therapy, access to medication, or stable housing, recovery remains fragile. One lapse, one missed dose, one eviction notice can undo years of progress. As our lens widens, a painful truth comes into focus. Homelessness in Las Vegas isn't just about a lack of shelter. It's about a lack of treatment, resources, and long-term support. And when mind and body are pushed to breaking, survival itself becomes a full-time job. From these battles of the mind, our documentary now turns to the broader question. How do city policies and public investments address or ignore the root causes of this crisis? On the Strip, fountains dance to music, lights blaze through the night, and fortunes change with the roll of a die. Just blocks away, men and women wrestle with untreated psychosis, addiction, and despair. Worlds apart, yet sharing the same desert air. It's here, in the shadow of billion-dollar resorts, that Las Vegas's cruelest paradox is exposed. A city built on spectacle that hides its deepest suffering in plain sight. Tourists step over sleeping bodies on their way to sold-out shows, and casino workers in pressed uniforms finish their shifts only to return to shelters or cramped motel rooms. The contrast is jarring, almost surreal, proof that in Las Vegas, the illusion of wealth doesn't just mask poverty, it thrives beside it. And this raises the question at the heart of our story. How long can a city of endless jackpots afford to gamble with human lives? To answer, we must examine the policies, politics, and power struggles shaping how Las Vegas chooses to confront or conceal its crisis. Las Vegas dazzles the world with illusions of fortune, yet the reality just beyond the Strip reveals a city gambling with human dignity. Tunnels flood, encampments scatter, charities stretch thin, and the most vulnerable, veterans, families, those living with mental illness, carry the weight of neglect. What we've seen isn't just a Vegas story, it's an American one. If a city that generates more than $12 billion in annual gaming revenue can't find the will to house its people, what does that say about our national priorities? The solutions exist: affordable housing investments, housing first programs, mental health outreach, and fair wages for workers who keep this city alive. What's missing isn't ideas, it's commitment. As viewers, you've now seen beyond the neon glow into the shadows where resilience flickers against the odds. The question is, what will we do with this knowledge? Will we let the illusion persist, or will we demand a reality where prosperity includes everyone? Because no jackpot, no fountain show, no billion-dollar suite shines brighter than a city that refuses to leave its people behind. Beneath the bright facade of Las Vegas, survival for thousands depends on a patchwork of social welfare programs. Federal lifelines like SNAP feed more than 90,000 households in Clark County each month, though at just $200 per person per month, the benefit often runs out before groceries do. Medicaid expansion, covering over 800,000 Nevadans statewide, ensures doctor visits and counseling remain possible for low-income residents, yet treatment deserts and long waits often leave critical needs unmet. Housing assistance paints an even harsher picture. The Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority manages nearly 6,000 Section 8 vouchers, but the wait list stretches into years, time most families in crisis simply don't have. TANF, meant to support families with children, averages under $500 a month for a family of 3, barely half the cost of median rent in the city. And while SSI benefits and veteran waivers provide vital aid to seniors and disabled veterans, The lack of affordable, accessible housing leaves many still shut out of stability. Local nonprofits step in where the system falters. Catholic Charities of Southern Nevada runs job readiness programs, helping clients transition into entry-level positions with living wages. The Goody Two Shoes Foundation offers clothing and hygiene kits, recognizing that dignity often begins with the basics. Faith-based groups open cooling centers in the blistering summers and warming shelters in the cold desert nights, simple interventions that mean the difference between life and death. What emerges is a sobering reality. Aid exists, but it is fragmented, modest, and often outpaced by the rising costs of life in a city built for tourists, not the working poor. Despite these layers of support, systemic challenges persist. Eligibility rules often exclude those with irregular incomes or undocumented status. Benefit cliffs, where earning just a few extra dollars can mean losing food stamps, Medicaid, or housing aid, discourage workforce participation rather than reward it. Outreach gaps leave many unaware of programs entirely, while underfunding means the most vulnerable wait months, sometimes years, for relief that may never arrive. Case managers describe a maze of agencies and paperwork that can take months to navigate, while eviction notices and utility shutoffs rarely wait that long. For a travel documentary seeking to reveal hidden truths, the reality of social welfare in Las Vegas is a paradox, a lifeline and a trap, hope and frustration. These programs keep thousands from sinking deeper, yet too often they perpetuate cycles of poverty rather than break them. And so we return to the glittering heart of the city, where billions flow through casinos, resorts, and high-end restaurants. Here, the contrast sharpens. While social welfare fights to stretch every dollar, the Strip thrives on excess. Our next chapter explores how tourism revenues and economic incentives shape Las Vegas's priorities, and why the city of bright lights struggles to shine them on its most vulnerable residents. Las Vegas is more than glitz and jackpots. It is a city of sharp contrast, where wealth towers in neon while shadows deepen just beyond the Strip. Beneath the hotels and fountains, in tunnels, tents, and makeshift shelters, thousands struggle each day against poverty, illness, and invisibility. From overworked officers to weary volunteers serving casseroles on folding tables, this crisis is not distant, and it is not unsolvable. It asks us to reorder priorities, to place human dignity on equal footing with tourist dollars. The path forward is clear. Build affordable housing, weave mental health care into outreach, and call on the city's wealthiest stakeholders to share in the solution. If Las Vegas can funnel billions into entertainment, it can surely invest in resilience and compassion. Every restored life is proof that change is possible when policy, community, and conscience align. So we are left with a question that lingers beyond the bright lights. Can a city built on dreams afford to abandon its own people? When the music stops and the Strip goes dark, the true measure of Las Vegas won't be in jackpots won, but in the compassion it shows for those who have nothing left to gamble